Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. My name is Dr. Haifa Maamar. I am the Education Director of Emerging Technologies here at Full Sail University. And today we are actually having another Tech Tuesday episode this month of November. And today we are having an episode specifically to talk about International Education Week. The International Education Week celebrates the benefits of international education and exchange worldwide. It's a joint initiative of the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education, where the International Education Week is part of their effort to promote programs that prepare Americans for a global environment and encourage students from abroad to study and exchange experiences here in the United States. And today to talk about their experiences, they used to be international students, and they came here to the U.S. They came to Full Sail University to study here at Full Sail University to study one of the emerging tech programs. I have three amazing graduates from the Game Design Master's program. I've been talking to them and I enjoyed learning more about them. So I have Carlos Danna, Eirik Drivdahl, and Joey Yang. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So let's start by having you please introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a bit about your current role and what you're doing. And I'm just going to start. Carlos, what about you start?
Yep. First of all, it's great to be here, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for being with us.
Back.
Thank you for saying Thank you for saying yes to talk about your journey and to be part of this this episode.
Yep. So my name is Carlos. I'm originally from Argentina. I went to Full Sail in 2014. I graduated in 2015 from the Game Design Master's program, and basically, life has its way, and I ended up living in Stockholm, Sweden. Currently, I'm a consultant for a firm. I help them with all kinds of stuff. I focus mostly on payment systems and payment systems more than anything. And currently, one of the clients I'm providing consultancy is Spotify here in Stockholm.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow. Okay, I want to learn more about that. Eirik, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Eirik Drivdahl. I graduated from the Game Design Master's program in 2013. Then I moved back to Norway, where I'm currently working as a systems architect at a small company called Intellilift. We deliver services to the oil and gas sector and also renewables. And in that vein, a lot of wind and that kind of stuff. So basically my work involves everything from designing systems to also doing a lot of the potato work like 3D, 2D animations, scripting and stuff like that.
Amazing. And I guess you're using one of the engines to do a lot of those systems and animation and so on.
Yeah, right now we're using Unity 3D mostly. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you. How about you, Joy?
Hey, I'm Joey Yang. Thank you for having me in this panel. So I'm from China, and I graduated from Full Sail GDMS program back in 2013. No, 14. Sorry. I'm currently a producer at Bungie, working on Destiny franchise. And previously, I was a producer on Apex Legends, and then the outsourcing manager of Battlefield Mobile, and I helped shoot dozens of other games, other titles.
Amazing. Wow. Well, thank you all for joining us. So I know that you graduated from the Game Design Master's program, and as you probably, when you went through this program, we had different tracks. We have the UX track, the educational games, the game design. So which track did you guys take or were you interested in? And then what was your focus during capstone? What was your final project? Eirik, you want to start?
Yeah, my final project in the capstone was I was working on my own like small mobile game using Unity, so it was a learning experience really for me. All the stuff that goes into making a game, and I also provided help to other capstone projects doing like 3D art or 2D art. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I know if there's a build of that somewhere out there, but I at least got to make something, and afterwards that kind of became my job working with Unity. So I'm quite happy that I got that experience just trying it out and doing it in a like a controlled environment.
That's amazing. How about you, Joy?
So at first I was attached to the US lab, trying to learn, more of the US stuff. But I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to help ship a arcade title from China to the US. So I think I was probably the only student that that shipped away from working on school project and then instead working on a retail project at the time. So I spent all my time trying to ship this browser-based arcade Chinese game into the US market for this publisher Qvik in my capstone.
That's amazing. Tell me more about that. I'm very interested in knowing more about like the whole process of like not really working on the game, but like you're more working on this retail thing.
Long story short, it's I ran into someone in a convention called ECGC, and because I was talking to another classmate who was also from China in Mandarin, and then this how I got the attention from the person who gave me this opportunity. So that's the beginning of it. Like, so after getting to know one another, he learned that I was a producer, and I was also going to full cell. So I was selected to be, the one who runs this project. And then at a time, Qvik just bought this project from China, and it was a Chinese Three Kingdom themed game, but we know that that theme might not work in the US. So they want us to reskin the whole game into a Arthur Merlin type of theme. So my job is to localize the visual and make a mini version of the game for the US market, so they can take the next steps.
That's amazing. Wow, thank you. How about you, Carlos?
Yep. So my capstone project was about educational games, and the reason I went into that capstone was because all my classmates were going into it, and I was like, I love working with these people, and let's do it. And yep, in that time we worked as a team. We made a lot of connections with other people as well in the game development program and several artists. We used to participate in a lot in game jams. So we had a very strong team working on several projects, and we were able to turn out a number of different projects. We developed a game focused on all of them were educational. So one was to learn the different bones of the body. That was for medical students. Actually, we did some tests on FSU as well with medical students there, which was good. We worked on a game called Decoration of Independence, which is basically what you would imagine an adventure game where you go finding treasures of American history to decorate a museum or the House of Independence, I would say. There was another game called Dig for Dino, which it was kind of, at that time, Spelunky and games like those were very popular. So you were going digging and you were finding skeletons from dinosaurs and all of that, and you had to make it a museum. And then there was another set of games that we developed made for, actually one of the most fun stories is it was for very young kids, and it was about animal sounds. And basically we found this very nice pack of animal images in the internet, and we basically bought them. And we started and basically playing around with Unity. Whenever you tap on the animal, it will play the sound, and usually we will have different games like sound matching or figures matching. Like we will use the shadow of the animal and say
That's amazing.
which animal it is. So it was a lot of cool stuff like that, and it's funny because some of the sounds were made by us. So we
Oh, wow.
kind of
That's funny. Well, it looks like a very how to say it, like a very fun capstone, educational, and it probably helped you also understand the audience that you're dealing with, like what kind of like complexity for the game that you should have, and so on.
Yep, definitely it was a lot of fun, and what I would say the one thing that went right, it was having that that great group of people and very passionate about what we were doing, and I always felt lucky for being part of that team, and everybody felt that way because it was like we had all the different skill sets. Each one had its own attitude, but it was great as well because everyone had a very clear goal on what we wanted out of the experience, and always the conversations and discussions were super interesting and engaging.
That's amazing. So, you guys are like from China, Sweden, Norway, or actually Argentina and so on. How did you hear about Full Sail? Joe, you want to start?
Sure. So I was doing my own research on top 10 game schools in a world in the US, and the Full Sail show up in all the results that I got from my research. And then I did a lot of calculations on how can I afford my living and tuition in the US. And I found out about this one-year program, GDMS, that's the one and only program out there that's like that. And then I decided that it's the program that I can afford, and then I also like what a school can offer. So yeah, like it's research and a lot of investigation and calculation.
That's great. What about you, Eirik?
Yeah, I just finished my bachelor's in game design back here in Norway. And then I started looking into, okay, I want to do a master's in this same field. So I was just searching the web, and I found Full Sail, and I thought to myself, Orlando, that sounds nice. Never been there before. Been to the US a couple of times, but at least here in Norway, it's really cold. So it was good to have a change of temperature.
A break from the cold, yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Carlos?
So for me, I started my research 1 year before graduating from my bachelor's degree. And basically, I remember sending a spam to different places and asking about their programs and stuff like that. And among the universities that answered me, actually, this person directly called me back in Argentina, and was Full Sail. And I had a great conversation, but it was like, okay, I will think about it. I'm not up to make any decision. And then later, that same person reached out to me on an email. I think it was something like Merry Christmas, and it was 1 year later. And basically, I was like, hey, let's schedule another call, and I would like to talk about more, learn about more about Full Sail. I was looking for also a master's degree in game design or game development or whatever, and something game related. And yeah, he called me, and everything checked out. I really liked it, and yeah, I pretty much enjoyed.
That's
I
great.
decided for Full Sail. That's
That's
kind of the
great.
story.
That's great. So let's talk about your journey here at Full Sail. How was your experience as an international student? And I can talk about myself. I was an international student as well. I am originally from Tunisia, North Africa. I went to Canada at 18, and I did my studies there in Canada. And even though I stayed in Canada for a long time, I stayed there for 14 years to do my bachelor, master's, and PhD. But It was kind of challenging at the beginning because it was a new country, a new education system, a new language for me. English is my third language. Even though when I joined, like when I went to Canada, I was first studying in French and then I switched to English. And the culture is different. So there was obviously a culture shock for me there. But then slowly I really embraced that change, and I'm like, I love everything new. So I'm always like trying to learn like different cultures, trying to learn what that country is about, trying to really mix with everyone in our, like the students in my program. And that's how I enjoyed, it helped me to enjoy my experience when I was at the University of Ottawa in Canada. But I know as well that as an international student, sometimes it's challenging. We miss our countries, we miss our parents and family, and sometimes we're not used to things. So tell me about your experience here. Whoever wants to start first, please go.
Okay, I'll start. Oh, sorry, but I think I'm going to start. So for me, it wasn't that complicated. I did my last year of high school, I did it in the United States as in one of those exchange programs like AFS and stuff like that. But so for me, writing was more difficult than speaking. I used to speak English sometimes or listen a lot of TV shows in English, but the hard part was for me getting back into writing stuff. And that was the most challenging thing. I remember having to do an essay on the first or second week, and I was like, holy cow, I don't know how to do any of this, and I felt like it was super slow. And then I was like, okay, let's just sit down and do it. And that's how I did it. I know some people I think I was fortunate because I had that previous experience, but for me it was hard to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. Writing was not my thing. Like for me, I'm an engineer, so if you ask me to program or problem solve, I'm very quick at doing it. But if you ask me to write, it's gonna take me some time to, well, first of all, I cannot express, so it's like for me, I'm like I get to the point right away. But like if I need to also write, it's gonna be hard for me to just like find a way how to express myself.
Yeah, for me the biggest problem is how to express myself in the way that I want to express myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had to get comfortable with sometimes things don't translate. So
Yeah.
it's complicated. So my problem was getting to the specifics of what I wanted to communicate. And I would say nowadays I'm able to do that at the larger extent, but at that point it was super frustrating for me.
I agree. I feel, I mean, like, I wouldn't say I don't have any problems, but like, I'm good right now. Like, I think it's with the practice and keeping doing things on and on, then like, it becomes kind of like a natural thing to do. But I remember back then when I was in Canada, and especially to express myself in English, it was hard. Joey, how was your experience?
I think I can relate my experience to Carlos because I remember by the time I met Eirik at school, his English was already super good, but language barrier was my #1 challenge at school. At the first day at school, I couldn't finish my introduction to my classmates. That's how bad I was, and I was also recommended to take an English class. Because my professor was afraid that I wouldn't be able to, to graduate from the program.
Okay.
But I told him that I have to try harder, twice harder, triple harder than everyone because I can't afford, the English as a second language program. I don't have the time because I was, older than everyone else. I like a lot of classmates, they went straight to the master's program right after the graduate from the undergrad school, but I have worked in the industry for 4 years, so I have to put myself through all the challenges. So while I had a choice to, spend more time with the other international students from China in the language that I'm most familiar with. But I decided that I only have 1 year here. I have to spend more time with the local students, with the native speakers to improve my English. And so I did that. And I can also share that that same sentiment that when it comes to writing, like I'm a game student, but I have to spend the entire weekend to write a thesis. But usually it would take local students like 2 hours to write the whole thing. My roommates, they were always complaining that, hey, Joey, you are the only game student in this house, but you're not playing video games at all with us. What's wrong with you? But that was the challenge I was facing. So it was, good memory, but I have a great time at Full Sail.
That's amazing. It's funny that they say that. I feel like most of the people who work in games or game students don't necessarily play games, they create games. It's like you will find that other students are the ones who are playing games. That's fine. Thank you for sharing, Joey. How about you, Eirik?
I would have to say that I was a bit more fortunate than the others in that I have family in the US, so I'd been over there a couple of times before. And I did also have a roommate when I got there. I just asked around Full Sail, like on the web pages, like, is anyone starting this program this fall? And then I got this guy called Josh, and he was the first who responded. So I said, yeah, let's move in together. Other than that, I would say that in my case, there weren't really a lot of challenges. There's always going to be some sort of culture shock when you move to another country. And I would say my biggest challenge was just, well, finding my place after a while. But usually you get there by just talking with your classmates and going out.
Yes, I was going to ask, I'm like, did you try to like be part of the community here and then like talk to your classmates and so on, or were you more like staying with other international students or other students from your country or like that speak the same language as you, just to be in that safe, I wouldn't say safe zone, comfort zone, I would say?
I don't actually think there were a lot of like Scandinavian students at Full Sail at the time when I was there. So well, I did have a roommate, Josh, so we started just inviting people over to our place for Guitar Hero and, well, having a good night. And, well, that's how I got to meet a lot of people.
Yep, that's true. Joey and Carlos, like, were you like trying to meet, like kind of go outside your circle of friends or people you knew, and then to meet other American students here?
Definitely, the Guitar Hero nights was one of my best experiences as well. So I was invited to Erik's place and hang out with all the people. Well, I was just a scared, silent kid because I don't have the language skill to express myself very well, but I was always welcome to join the group. And then I was accepted by the group, and then that made me feel super.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point too. It's like being accepted, and it's true. Like it's if you put yourself out there and force yourself to speak to others, to talk to others, and then force yourself to practice that English. That's when like you overcome those like the language barrier challenges.
Yeah,
So gratitude towards Eirik and all my good friends from school. Sorry, Carlos.
Yep, no problem. I finished. It was my fault. So, what I was going to say is that for our group, there were a lot of game jams going on. Like at least we had one a month. And what happened is that we will join every single month a different game jam, and we will make a ton of contacts with designers, artists, and developers from everywhere, basically, from all the different courses that Full Sail offers. So that was super positive. About, for example, I had also a roommate, 2 roommates actually, but with one of them I became very close to, and actually I was at his wedding early this year. So,
That's
and
amazing.
he is also a native. He's actually from the United States as well. I had to
Okay,
fly all the way to California, but it was super fun.
that's amazing.
So yeah, making friends that speak the language, and it doesn't matter where they are from. It matters that you can communicate and be friendly with everybody and expand your horizons, I guess.
That's a very good point. Yes, I agree with you. Expand your horizon. So, once you graduated from the game design master's program, did you go back to your country, or did you stay here in the U.S.? And how did you start your journey, like career journey, let's say? Eirik, you want to go first?
Yeah. So when I was finished with the master's program, I moved back to Norway just for a short break, and then I started looking for jobs. Well, I did want to stay in Norway, so I was looking around at like game development jobs here, but the industry is very small, so I had to expand my search into other fields that were like game adjacent, like simulator technology and stuff like that. So I actually got a lead on a job in another city from my network, and I ended up going over there in person to apply for a job, and it worked out. So then I started working for a small company in Stavanger, which is another city in Norway, for the oil and gas sector mostly, like providing interactive solutions and animations, visualizations, and stuff like that.
That's
So
amazing. That's amazing. Why did you choose to do gaming if the gaming industry was so small in Norway?
well, it was mostly for it was my dream basically. I've
Okay,
played games all my life, and I wanted to work on games, and it's still a dream that I'm
that you
hoping that
want.
one day in the future I'll get there. But
Well, hopefully, yes.
for
Hopefully
now
one
I
day.
kind of grew into that simulator stuff, so
That's
I'm stuck
amazing.
there.
How about you, Joy?
So I stayed in the States after I graduated. I guess I was doing well in the capstone project that I just talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So same person who hooked me up with this first gig also gave me an offer to be a producer. So I moved up to Chicago, work for this company, Game Vision. The company that helped make a lot of games. So it's a service provider. And as a producer, I worked there for years, and I got promoted to be the EP, executive producer of the studio. And just right before the pandemic, I accepted an offer from EA to be the outsourced manager of the Battlefield mobile game.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then I transferred from this EA studio to Respawn and became a producer of Apex Legends, and I have shipped you know, for Legends when I was there. So it's So I've been in the States. I never returned to China because it's just very intense production schedule
That's
year round.
impressive. Wow, that's impressive. How about you, Carlos?
Yep. So I stayed in the United States. I moved to Miami,
Hmm.
and I found and basically for me this was the hardest point of my life because finding the first job was the most complicated thing I ever done. I was 3 months into my optional professional training, and I still couldn't find a job, and I was starting to get super nervous about it. A lot of things, but I managed to find a job for a consultancy firm that focused mostly on software for banks and insurance companies, among other things.
Hmm.
And I worked there for a little bit over 3 years. And basically, I had several clients I worked for, insurance companies. I worked on several projects, most not related to games whatsoever, but more related to coding itself, which was my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So I did chatbots, I did different systems. I it was quite it was quite alright. It was great, but at the same time, when my optional professional training expired, I was like, before it expired, I was thinking what to do next, and basically I was like, okay, let's move somewhere in Europe. Let's try. There were several things that weren't clicking on my head at that point, and I said, let's move to Europe. And yeah, I moved to Stockholm, and I managed to find some of the things that I missed, I think, here, but it was quite an experience for me. For what I want to get across from that question is basically uh, everybody has a different experience. I know people that got a job right after school. There were people that had a very tough challenge getting a job. So don't get disappointed. Just keep at it. There is no other recommendation for
I
that.
love I love this advice. Thank you, Carlos, because I agree. Like it's not always easy to find your first job, especially fresh out of school where you still don't really have that much experience. But yes, like just keep looking, and eventually you will get a job.
Yep. And not only that, I'm sorry, I'm going to take a little bit longer here,
That's
but
fine. It's fine.
as Eirik just mentioned, it's like you have don't limit your scope too much. Look at what is in your zone. Look at what is in your area. I think what Eirik mentioned is super important. As well as, hey, your first job, it might not be in the industry like myself, but I had opportunities to work in the industry which I didn't take. But it does, at the end of the day, for example, when it comes to coding, at the end of the day, everything is code. You just need to learn the tool in which you are going to code, and sometimes that might differ depending on the company and stuff like that either way. So as long as you have the, I don't want to say attitude, but the willingness to push forward with that and say, okay, in this time I'm going to take the loss, but which is not a loss, it's experience at the end of the day. But be open to other kinds of experience that you might not be expecting.
I love that. Actually, it's a good transition to my next question because I was going to ask Eirik, especially about and you as well, Carlos, because both of you graduated from the game design program. Both of you, for Eirik, for example, even his bachelor was in a game design program. Carlos, for you, it was in computer science. And usually, students who go to the gaming programs, they end up or like they gravitate to working for a game studio. And I always tell my students, like everyone here in the gaming programs, I always tell them, don't be that close-minded. Open your kind of mind to other opportunities that are out there. See how you can use your skill set, whatever skills you gain from these programs in other fields like simulation, training, visualization, virtual reality, augmented reality, all these things. Or like something like you, Carlos, where like you ended up using all your background in the financial aspect of like software engineering, like implementing those payment software and so on. So I know, Eirik, I asked this question earlier where I asked about the gaming industry in Norway specifically because I was going into that where yes, okay, it's small and you wanted to do that, but then I'm happy that you ended up you realize that, okay, we're dealing with a different, how to say it,
landscape.
Exactly, landscape, exactly. So I need to switch my mind towards like in a smart way, how can I use what I have to figure out what's best for me? So can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I would say that when I applied for that job, I saw that they were using Unity, and that was something that I was just getting started on at that point. I'd done my capstone project, at least started on it in Unity, and I saw that they were pivoting into that as well. They were doing mostly animations and visualizations up until that point. So when I came into that job, I was straight away thinking every day I went home from work, it was like, oh, it would be so fun to take this thing that I learned and apply it to a game, because it was so like similar. All the systems that you would make at your work could also be applied in a game context. So for me, that job I felt was very, it's developing me as like also a game developer, not necessarily just like in a simulator developer. I see those as kind of fairly interchangeable skill sets.
That's amazing. Thank you. How about you, Carlos? How did you
Yeah,
use like how did you end up in the like financial aspect of software, I would say?
it's I would say it's by chance. Like never expected to be working on this. Actually, I used to joke about I prefer to have a nerd at the end of the line saying, "Hey, why my game isn't working?" than say, "Hey, why is my credit card not going through?" Uh, Literally, I used to joke about that when I was doing my bachelor's degree in Argentina, but it's kind of karma coming back to bite me, to hit me. But yeah, what I would say is that uh, basically life took me on this direction, and basically I'm pretty good at dealing with requirements. So I will understand requirements, I would say, and when it comes to when you work on financial systems, you care a lot about regulations and stuff like that, which is for most people is boring. For me, is actually interesting and
Mm.
exciting. It's probably taking it one step too far, but it's kind of interesting to see. Okay, but this we cannot put this system in this country because of XYZ, and understand all of that aspects. And sometimes you work with several different departments and stuff like that. And I would say something that gaming teaches you really well is looking at the broader picture, look at everything holistically. Usually when the people that I like working the most are basically the user experience designer and researcher, and the product owner, because it's like, okay, how can we make this experience work the best? And we need to do this. And then it's the technical aspect. Oh, this has too much latency. How can we make it slow? How can we make it faster? What tools can we use? And usually the conversations go around that. And it's, again, you don't want for example, when you work on a video game, you focus on, you might say, oh, okay, the character is walking. Okay, yeah, but what is the sound when the character is walking? Is it going to always be tuck, tuck, tuck? That is going to be boring. The people will feel about it, will feel bad about it. So how can
Uh-huh.
you improve the experience? So at a smaller scale, I would say, we do that as well for different systems. So we think at it holistically, and in video games, you have to think on all of those things, even though
Exactly.
you're just programming. You have to be like, reach out to the person in charge of sound and say, hey, this doesn't sound well, or reach out to the artist and say, hey, this does a crazy move with their arm, or
Yeah, but that's what user experience is. Like we're trying to have the like we're trying to make sure that our users, whether in video games as players or in anything else where they're interacting with a digital product, that they have the best experience. So whether it's sound, whether like how like if it's in games or any software, that like you're trying to make sure that a user is enjoying and things are done properly, implemented properly, it's not slow, and then that the user is not frustrated about like the use of whatever product, whether in payments, in games, in simulation, all of them, they do require user experience. So how did the program that you graduated from, so the Game Design Master's program, prepare you for your current role? You want to start, Joey?
I try. So before I went to full stack, I was already producing games for 4 years. But at a time, I was just trying experiment things without the education, without the infrastructure of production. I think what I learned from Full Sail, the production methodology, the infrastructure. They help me to see the project differently. That definitely not. So after I went through the program, I can actually have a better understanding of how a well-organized projects would look like, so I can apply my experience and my new techniques in the production process. But I know that I wanted to take some opportunity to tell all the potential students that you only have like a year or two at school, so you cannot expect everything to be handed to you. So your teacher, your professors will teach you the fundamental stuff, and it's up to you to build the building, build your expertise based on that.
I love this advice.
Yeah, so I super appreciated that the infrastructure that I picked up at Full Sail.
That's amazing. Thank you. Anyone else wants to say something?
I will go. I think that Full Sail provided me with a very awesome sandbox, mostly because of the people I work with as well. I put a lot of emphasis on that because it was really an amazing group. But one of the things was we had a lot of creative writers in the group in which I was studying. So a lot of people came from creative writing. There were some that were from film. Me along with one other, we were the only technical people there. And one of them came from art. So we had quite a varied point of view, and working together and learning to communicate at the different levels was what I learned the most. And also about the group itself, it was they were all there to learn, and it was a perspective that I didn't. So they were willing to make a lot of mistakes and learn from them. Something that I wasn't used to, and sometimes I clashed really hard on those perspectives, I would say. But they don't. On the interactions, I feel like I learned a lot. So that's why I said that I think I use Full Sail as a sandbox to learn a lot of things that help me later in life. But regarding on courses and classes, I can enumerate all of them. I can enumerate all the classes of user experience, game design, and project management. It was the project management class. I remember it was the crazy one at that time, and that is the point where our group really became very tight because it was a complicated class, but at the same time we were all working together, and there were always okay, I know if I say something about this, I will go directly on a collision course against this person, and I better have very good arguments about it.
That's interesting.
So yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Eirik?
Yes, I would say in my case, at least like the accelerated pace of the master's program, since it's only 1 year.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point.
You're working hard all the time, and that very much prepared me for the same type of work that I usually do. There's always new jobs every month. Like this new position I started in, I've already worked on 4 separate projects, mostly by myself. So you have to learn how to be self-driven. And I felt that Full Sail kind of gave me a lot of push in that direction when it came to like learning how to be effective with your time and managing all the different like commitments that you have. In addition to that, all the stuff about team leadership, team dynamics, and agile work methodologies, that applies to every single team that you're on. So I felt that was also a very good thing to have.
Those
And,
are good advice.
And yeah, regarding that stuff with don't be afraid to fail, like failing forwards, that's is always going to happen. It's a
Of
teachable
course,
moment.
that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know I cannot ask you about what you're currently working on or what kind of projects you're currently working on, but I would ask the question differently. What kind of tech you're currently using in your current roles? And then how can students or how can students join this field, or like what are some kind of areas of focus students can work on if they're interested in working in the same field as you? And we have 3 different fields here. So we have the gaming with Joey, the simulation with Eirik, and then the financial with Carlos. So you guys, go ahead. Like, if you can share what kind of tech you're working on, that would be great.
Yep.
And any kind of tools, and then any advice how students can join this field.
I will go first if you don't mind. So I work mostly as it's called a front-end developer. So basically, I work a lot on web pages and stuff like that.
Okay.
So the technologies there are mostly JavaScript based. So Next.js, Node, React, all those technologies. But I also do a lot of interviews, and I've been in a lot of interviews.
Okay.
Because as a consultant, you are always interviewing and being interviewed.
Of course.
And
so you're an expert right now in interviews.
Yeah, I would say so, kind of. So what I would say is that usually it doesn't matter which technology you use as long as you know one technology really well. That doesn't stop you to learn new technologies. The reason why I recommend learning one technology really well is because they are not the difference between one technology and the other is they are not the same, but they rhyme. They rhyme really well. So you will know what to do under what circumstances, regardless of the tool that you're using. So, hey, for this, I need an event-driven system. And how do I read the queue from this tool, or learn probably a cloud computing service? At Spotify, they use Google Cloud Computing, but regardless of what they use, it's either AWS, Azure, or a Google Cloud Computing. And either one of those, learn it well, and they pretty much rhyme. Before working with GCP, I only worked with AWS, and I basically had to translate, okay, this does that, this connects with this. So don't focus too much on technology, just focus on learning one really well.
I love your answer, Carlos, because I agree with you. I try always whenever parents here they come, or whenever students they come, I always tell them we are language agnostic. Don't ask me about what kind of programming languages we're going to teach you here. I can tell you what you're going to get, but that's not what's important. What's important is to master one technology, and then you're going to be able to switch to a different technology right away. It's the same thing for me. It's problem solving. Once you solve a problem, then the way you're going to express it is the same thing as languages. You're going to express it in English, in Spanish, or in French. It's going to be the same. The content is the same. It's just like the syntax can be different, or like the use of these tools can be different. Like, understand, as you said, cloud computing, understand what the topic is, what is the most important thing, but then whatever tool you're going to use, they're all going to do the same stuff anyway. Yep. It's just like mapping from one to another. And I love that you said that. Yeah.
And very rarely companies focus on, okay, it's good to have that. It's good that you have Angular, but we use React here. So what is and they are like, okay, you might not, for example, as a consultant, it matters sometimes, but not as much, as long as you can prove that you can actually learn the tool. I got in the United States, while on my 3 years there, I managed to get a role in a program language that I basically knew nothing about, that I learned in 2 weeks for a senior position. I got that assignment. So, and it was because of the background I have learning different languages because I understood, okay, this was the assignment. Okay, I just need to pull this, make this, and have this happening. And it happened that in that language, it was super easy to do everything.
Yeah.
So it's not a, it's the, it's not a tool. It's knowing what you're doing and what you need to do. What is more important than anything else.
I agree with you. Joey.
Well, I would say that if you are interested in game production field, we usually use Jira and Shopee, Shotgun, a particular area. So you might want to, just pick up some basic knowledge of, how to use these two tools. But on top of that, in order to understand a lot of features in the tools, you need to have the Agile and Scrum production infrastructure in there, so you can actually make things work in there, because there a lot of Scrum specific stuff will be involved in the day-to-day operation of the tools. Yeah, but so Jira, Shopee, Trello are the most common tools that we're using in production.
Love it. What about you, Eirik?
Yeah, in my case, I'm a Unity generalist, so I've been working with Unity since basically I ended my career at Full Sail, I would say. At least in my case, I have to learn new technologies all the time, especially when it comes to all the input we get from clients, for example. They send us 3D models in different formats and stuff like that, and I have to figure out how to make those into tessellated geometry that I can use in Unity, stuff like that. And there hasn't been a month where I haven't downloaded a new application or tried some new technology that I haven't been comfortable with. But the end goal has always been like to get it into Unity at some point, because that's my main work tool. So like my suggestion for students would be to get to know a game engine or something like that. And at least in my case, I saw that Unity could be used for simulations. So that was my focus.
Okay.
And then become a Google super user, basically. Know how to Google stuff. Ask the right questions.
I love that. Yes. That's how you Google. Yeah. That's your number one tool. Learn how to Google.
Yeah.
May I add, when you get to Stack Overflow, make sure to get the code from the answer and not the question.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is a good point. Thank you, Carlos. So, do you have any other advice, like for our international students, current international students, or prospective students? Just opening the floor to you guys to just share one last advice.
Yeah, I would say for current international students or people starting out at Full Sail, I would say get to know the people around you. Make friends with your classmates, invite people over, do some stuff. I mean, it's a high-paced environment, but there's always one evening open or something where you can do something nice and make an inclusive space for everyone, basically.
That's great.
My suggestion would be, if you're from China, particularly, just try to get out of your comfort zone. Try to communicate more, spend more time with the local students, because that's the only way for you to improve your language skill. And then I would also want international students to understand that you cannot see yourself as a student or international student, so you have a legit reason to be less than great, because when you're out of school, you will be competing people who have years of experience in industry. So you have to go extra miles. You have to not to consider yourself as a student. You have to try to align your ability, your skill with the professionals. You have to raise the bar. That's the only way that you can survive in this industry. That's the only way for you to take advantage of the local students don't have, because you have the bilingual skill to communicate to people in the States and the people in your country. So in order to do that, you just need to be extra excellent in your area. And there is no way for you to just to achieve that if you say, yeah, it's okay because I'm a student, so I'm supposed to be less skillful than people out there than your role.
I love that. Thank you, Joey. Carlos?
My advice will be a little bit echoing from Eirik. Make friends with everybody. Try to get involved with the school activities or with people at school. We used to, one of the cool things is that I had one of those monitor badges when I was doing the GDMS program. And whenever we had kind of game jams or whatever, the instructors were always relying on us to keep the lab open so we could be there
People
24.
can come join. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could be there the 24 hours and everything. So that was super important for us. Something that helped me a lot, not at Full Sail, but as well in life, was look for opportunities to meet people. Look for places that you can go to meet people and network. You never know where the next job offer will come from, where your next
That's
friends
true.
will be from.
That's true.
I went a lot to GDC, to the to GDC to talk to. I volunteer for IGDA. I volunteer for GDC as well. For 2 years, I made a lot of friends. I know a lot of people in the industry, and some of them actually said, "Hey, I'm doing this event in Germany. Do you want to come?" And that is how I ended up in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So make contacts, and when you're doing that, don't focus too much on who they are. Try to know them as people, not based on their title, because at game conference usually that happens
That's
as
true.
well. So try to engage with them as people, not as, hey, I want a job at your company.
I love that. I love
So
their advice. Yes, networking is extremely important in our field because you never know who you will be like. Now, your friends of today, where they will be working. Sometimes it's like we all get jobs from people we know. It's just this is how we. It's by referral. So thank you for saying that. And for non-international students, I would say also for American students, be curious about other cultures. Try to know other cultures. There is a lot to learn from all these different cultures that we have here at Full Sail University. Like even from your instructors who are coming from overseas, there is a lot to learn from them. So just be open-minded and try to learn from all these people as well. One last question that I have here, and thank you today. That's for you, Carlos, actually. Are you ready for the World Cup?
let's say yes.
With Argentina playing.
I hope Argentina
I'm looking
wins.
forward for the World Cup. Tunisia is playing, so I'm going to be waking up so early to watch Tunisia.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
No, I'm looking forward for it. Let's say that. It's going to be an interesting World Cup, definitely.
It is going to be an interesting World Cup. I agree with you. Well, thank you all for coming today and for dedicating some time to talk about your journey, whether at Full Sail or now, to share your experience and give advice to our students. I really appreciate everything you shared. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Eirik. Thank you, Joey, for your time. This is Dr. Haifa Maamar, and today we were talking about the Tech Tuesday, the International Education Week. Thank you all.